Hey everybody, welcome to the Vault Reviews, where we give you our opinions on some albums you should or shouldn't check out. You can send us an email, say anything you want, thevaultmusic1@gmail.com. We're also on social media, Twitter @thevaultmusic1 and facebook.com/thevaultrvws. We're on Podomatic, YouTube. I'm sure you're checking us out at one of those two places right now. But today we're going to take a look at a band's self-titled album, and that band is Deathcurse. And Brent is here again to review this album. You know, it's a cool concept we got to get two people's opinions and kind of have an average and not just have a landslided one-person opinion. So, Brent, what did you think of Deathcurse just kind of as a whole to start things off?
Honestly, as a whole, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I mean, it really is. I dig the horror metal kind of combo that they do. It's absolutely a lot of fun. So that was my big first thing I took away from it. And whenever I noticed like the last song, the outro, just I thought was amazing for this album. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that sometimes is missing in metal nowadays is fun. You know, we talk about in past shows about how 80s metal kind of had that fun aspect, and this is something that has that too, but it still shreds. Comes in at 10 tracks, around 30 minutes, so relatively short. But the production is kind of what gets it for me. It adds this edgy feeling to it, but it's not quite Chainsaw Pizza Box stuff. What did you think about the production?
I enjoyed it, honestly. I mean, I can't say anything bad about it. I didn't notice that it was really awful or anything. I thought it was perfectly fitting, actually, considering everything. And one thing I got to say right now, and it kind of goes in, I think, to the production and stuff with it, is the parts between the songs. Like, each song kind of had its own little, like, intro, outro thing or whatever. And I thought that was great. I loved, like, the little horror movie clips, like, in the middle.
And they all fit really well.
Yeah, I thought it was great. But yeah, the production totally fits the entire feel of the album. I thought it was good.
Yeah, a lot of horror elements. We already talked about that. You know, the titles and some of the sound clips. You know, it's fun horror stuff. You know, maybe like 80s and 90s horror stuff, not some of the modern, just gruesome kind of stuff. So the first thing that stood out to me when I was listening to this album was it had the newer Dark Throne, the stuff that's kind of thrashier, kind of speed metal-ish, and maybe a little bit of R and noir mixed in, that kind of feel, especially with the production and the riffs and stuff. Did you think that, or am I a little off base?
No, I think you're on base. It didn't honestly enter my head a whole lot. I was more pulled in by the thrash and just really the pretty good guitar work and everything on it, really.
And this band is just two guys, too, which is also impressive.
See, I didn't even know that. And honestly, I mean, I couldn't have told you that. Just listening to it, I could not have told you that it was just two guys. So, I mean, that says a lot for the album, honestly, I think.
So what'd you think of the vocals?
The vocals were they took a little bit of time, but I actually kind of enjoyed them, really. I didn't at first. It was kind of one of those that's like, wait a minute. And then, like I said, they kind of grew on me as I kept getting into it and everything. So, but I actually got written down here that they kind of, towards like the middle and towards the end of the album, it sounded kind of samey a little bit. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like what I was saying about, like, you know, kind of the newer Dark Throne stuff is it does kind of start sounding the same, but it's all super solid, and there's enough standout tracks that it doesn't feel like you're listening to the same song every time. But I understand what you're saying, yeah.
No, and don't take that, you know, that's not what I meant at all. It doesn't, you can tell you're listening to different songs and everything, and, you know, more than just the intros and stuff. Each song, you know, is its own, and it doesn't get like that. It's just, it's kind of, I don't know, like I said, a bit samey, especially the vocals, is about the only way I can really describe it. I don't know, it was a little weird for me.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think that's also part of, like, most of the thrash and kind of the crust punk thrashy black metal stuff is the vocals don't change. I mean, they're all pretty much the same, and it's just maybe the music change. And another kind of, I saw maybe a little bit of a Celtic Frost feel on some of the songs that were just a tad bit slower, but like I said, this really reminded me of like the newer Dark Throne stuff, which is some of my favorite stuff. So I was just totally digging this album. And I did spot, probably guessing you did not spot it, but the song Nightmare was a Venom cover. and that's one of my favorite Venom songs, so it was pretty cool. And like you said, the outro, we talked about that. The outro was so cool and fitting, but yet nothing like the rest of the album.
Yeah, whenever I first heard the outro, first I did actually catch that was a Venom cover, so I was
cool.
actually kind of proud of myself on that. But no, the outro, I honestly, whenever I was like first listening to it, I kind of put it on, and I was kind of, went on my own little world and was kind of doing some other things, and I kind of came back to it, and all I could think of was like, this almost sounds like a Pet Shop Boys instrumental.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And I mean, don't take that for this, being some like 80s synth pop stuff, but that was just kind of what I kept, what went into my head the whole time I was listening to the
Well,
outro.
that's kind of the stuff that was played in the horror movies, is that 80s synth pop kind of stuff.
Right, and I mean, it was absolutely great. It was perfect. I thought it was fantastic. So it was one of the highlights actually of the album to me, which it honestly has some pretty good stuff on it. So,
and as soon as the outro was ended, I hit play again. The album is so short that I could listen to it 3-4 times in a row and not really get tired of it because it was so short. And like you said, some of the stuff is samey. It might not be the most technical stuff in the world, but I don't care because it rocks and it never gets old. It doesn't get old. So there maybe was just a couple of songs I wasn't a huge fan of, but they were still good. And I think that's kind of along the same lines of what you were saying about how they were kind of samey sounding. That necessarily wasn't the reason I disliked or didn't like as much a couple of the songs. I think it was maybe just the riffs didn't grab me like some of the other ones did. But I mean, that pretty much covers this album. What else do you have to say about it? Anything?
Honestly, it's just, I know we said it at the beginning, but it's a fun, energetic album. I was actually really shocked because at least I don't, I say you don't, like everybody listens to the same stuff I do. I don't normally hear a whole lot of stuff that's just out there for basically a hell of a good time, and that's what I got from this. It's full of fun, it's full of energy, and knowing that it's two guys honestly makes it even better for me.
Yeah, so closing out, if you're looking for just a fun, thrashy black metal with some horror elements and just fun, awesome rock and roll, this self-titled Deathcurse album is definitely something to check out. So the classic Vault star rating, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, how many stars do you give this album?
I'm honestly going to give it a 3.5. I lean towards like a 4, maybe 3 3/4, but I think I'm going to set it a good solid 3.5. I want to hear more from these guys. The whole where it kind of grew a bit, kind of in the middle where it was kind of, I'm not real excited. That kind of weighed on it a little bit, but I mean, it's definitely something to check out, especially if this is kind of, your type of sound, you're a fan of horror movies or something like that. So I mean, a good solid 3.5 for me.
Yeah, I give it a 4 star, so that would average out to 3 3/4. Pretty solid. Definitely something to check out if you're a fan of thrash, the horror stuff, like you said, and I think even some of the crust punk black metal fans would like this album. So this is definitely something to check out, and it's a kind of underground band. So I mean, this definitely support those kind of artists. Not that there's anything wrong with mainstream, but underground artists can sometimes be putting out the best stuff. So don't just, write them off because you haven't heard of them or seen them somewhere else. So with that, we'd like to thank you for listening to this review. And if you want to send us some other album reviews to do, we'll listen to anything. We love music. TheVaultMusic1@gmail.com, on Twitter @TheVaultMusic1, and Facebook.com/TheVaultRVWS. Thanks again. Check out our next review sometime later. See ya.
Peace.